Digital Marketing Masterclass Live, Episode 3. If you haven't joined us in the past, my name is Chris Carr. I am the president and founder of a company called Faratech. For the last 21 years, we've been building digital strategies for small, mid-size, and large cap companies. It's our goal with Digital Marketing Masterclass to bring the latest tips, hacks, techniques, all the strategies that we're using for our clients, and hopefully that you can use it for your own. We're going to try to go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at around 2 o'clock. So please subscribe and click the notification button, and we'd be happy to kind of bring these lessons to you. So let's dive in. We are talking about the idea or the concept that marketing is moving too fast. And what I mean by that is that most organizations are starting to realize very quickly that, you know what, marketing isn't a one person's job anymore. They might have a CMO, they might have a director of marketing, and the problem is, or the challenge is that person is probably either overworked or they're at a crossroads to try to figure out which platform or approach that they're going to use. And so let me kind of talk to you about that. This is a term that was sort of made famous from HubSpot. They called this individual Marketing Mary. And the reality is that Mary is awesome at her job, but unless she's working 180 hours a week, there's no way that she's going to have enough time to be able to do all the critical facets of marketing. You know, your clients' expectations, they expect you to be on the first page of Google. They expect you to be a thought leader. They expect you to have a great website. They expect you to communicate effectively through newsletters and social media. You know, they just have greater and greater expectations. And so what happens here is that trying to figure out what to do and when to do it becomes a challenge. But then it actually gets worse, because this is a stat that's 2 years old. As of 2020, there was over 2 billion blogs, billion with a B, all right? 2 billion blogs on the internet. And you know what? That was one blog for every 7 people. So if you figure that of all these organizations are starting to commit to content, you're talking about, you know, just mountains and mountains of content. And what you're going to see in 2022 is that AI content is going to be on the rise. And so the amount of content that's going to be pumped out into the internet just this year alone is going to be staggering. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to realize, you know what, that the landscape is growing at a rapid pace. You know, this is something that GoGlobe puts out every year, and it says all of the content that's going out every single minute. And so if I just take one of these slivers here, you know what I mean? You're talking about YouTube. More than 400 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every single minute. So when you think, hey, you know what, I'm going to be the next viral video, maybe, but probably not. All right? And so what you're going to need to be able to do is you're going to need to know what challenges that you're marketing, if you have a CMO, what challenges that they have every day. So usually the alternative is something like this. If you wanted to hire internally, you know, you have Mary, let's say she has a starting salary of around $72,000. Then she realizes, hey, you know what, I'm going to need to maybe have someone write content for us. Maybe not full-time, but at least part-time. And so Connie Content's going to come in, and, you know, she's going to be about $34,000 a year. Then, you know what, social media is going to be one of those things that's on the plate, and if Mary and Connie can't handle it, you're going to have to outsource that. So now you're using either an internal resource or yet another vendor. SEO, I've said it again and again, it's an art and a science, and you need to hire people that know what they're doing. So either you're going to hire an internal resource or you're going to use a vendor for that. That's very expensive. And then you're taxing your web guy, and everything has to look like your brand. All right? And so you can wake up one day and literally your options are like this. You've got a lot of money going out the door, or you're using multiple vendors, which is a challenge, because if you change the messaging or approach, now Mary's got to call 5 different companies, 5 different independent vendors, and hope that they're all kind of rowing in the same direction. All right? Now the alternative is using a team-based approach. So when I talk about what approach a team-based approach is commonly what I'm talking about is using a marketing agency. Now, if an agency is good, the number one question you need to ask them is, how many of your people or your resources are internal hires? Because what happens here is that there's a lot of agencies that are going to shoot this stuff overseas to save cost. And usually what happens is when they do that, the quality goes with it. So the things that I want to be able to know are, if I have a team-based agency, what are the stakeholders that I'm going to get in that process. So one of the things that we recommend is that you definitely need to have a project manager who's a strategist. All right. In the ideal sense, you're working with a 2-person team, an account manager and a project manager. You're going to make sure you're going to have content writing. All right. You're going to have social media. You're going to have SEO. Commonly, you have to have graphic design. Usually, you need a paid ad strategist. All right. And then there's a variety of other things that you might have to get into, whether it's video or native advertising. Long story short is that hiring this internally is extremely cost ineffective. And so if you can use an agency to change the game or change how you do things, I would highly recommend it. But they have to have a team-based approach. Okay? So when you compare marketing internally or using multiple vendors versus an agency that has a team-based approach, what you're going to find almost time and time again is that they come in at a deep, deep discount. And if your account manager is speaking with you a minimum of an hour and a half per week, they will feel like your partner. And if they feel like your partner, they're going to be able to keep up the same rhythms as your internal team. Okay? If you're finding that your project manager or your account manager only speaks to you once a month, and they're not coming with data-driven decisions, and they're not doing the things that make you feel like you're a partner, get rid of that agency. It's really important that you find a partner as early as possible to build your editorial calendar and your 3 to 5 year roadmap. Okay? Now, what you should also be saying is there's more. And what I mean by that is that, like, if you look at our organization drops a minimum of around $7,000 a month on software for our clients. And so if you figure that, you know what, I'm going to drop $7,000 a month on an agency, that agency also has to have the software they need to succeed. Because if you were going to try to use these tools internally, before you even hired a single person, that's $7,000 of tools that you need just to be competitive. Okay? So that's one of the things that you have to look at. The other things that you want to be able to do with an agency, and I've talked about this before, is you got to make sure that the agency is comprehensive enough to be able to handle the ups and downs of marketing, the algorithm changes, or just even the crazy stuff like privacy updates and things like that. So the things that I really hope that you're going to do whenever you select a marketing agency is ask them what their process is like. And so the things that I think that are going to be pillars of the things that you should be looking for is, did they take a significant amount of time to do discovery? With us, we use we have this thing here, and it's called a gap assessment. And the gap assessment is literally this, it's this thick. It takes us about 10 weeks. And in those 10 weeks, we're going to figure out your 3 to 5 year roadmap. We're going to look at the challenges for your industry. We're going to look at your competition. And what we're going to do is we're going to analyze your goals, and we're going to work in reverse to try to figure out, hey, if I need to drive, let's say hypothetically, $20 million of new revenue, how many sales does it take, in new sales does it take to get to that $20 million mark? And if I know how many sales, I need to know how many leads did it take to get those sales. And then I need to know how much marketing it took to get those leads. So ultimately, I need to know how much do I have to spend in marketing to get the sales that are going to drive me to 20 million. After the gap assessment, what I'm also going to look at is something called usability conversion analysis, which essentially is heat mapping that you're going to put all over your website to try to figure out how is your usability leading to conversion. SEO, which is the art and science of getting on the first page of Google for critical keywords, that is something that you're going to have to figure out how you're going to do it technically. You're going to have to figure out what content you're going to have to write, and you're going to have to figure out what backlinks you can get. Your content strategy. Content strategy should work hand in hand with SEO, and whatever agency you select, we want to recommend that you use marketing automation. The tools that we recommend you use would be HubSpot in this case, and maybe sometimes Salesforce or Pardot. Okay? In that, after you've looked at that, what I want to be able to do is I also want to look at lead nurturing. With lead nurturing, this allows us to connect our marketing automation so that any lead that comes in is going to be able to get maybe an overview email, features and benefits, cost of procrastination, frequently asked questions, maybe some testimonials or case studies, and then maybe a new offer. From there, I want to also make sure that my social media channels are all set up, that I've figured out what target audiences. If I've created groups, that's a really good idea. But social media is only going to work effectively if you're connecting it with a paid approach. And I've talked significantly about your organic reach in SEO is practically not even worth your effort unless you're willing to pay for the eyeballs to see it. So if you are going to implement a paid social or a paid advertising strategy, you're going to have to figure out what analytics and what data you're going to use to figure out your ROI. And so I would make sure that your agency understands your entire paid advertising approach. Video development, the number one way to engage your audience is to humanize your brand or your products and services. And so if you don't have a video on your homepage, you absolutely should. And then analytics and reporting. I said it again and again and again. You have to be able to make data-driven decisions on your marketing. If not, you're just going to be chasing trends and hunches and all of that stuff. And you know what? That usually leads, it's a path that sort of leads to nowhere. Okay? So that's a unique process. If you're hiring a market agency, that is the type of stuff that you want to look for. Obviously at Fairtech, we offer all of that stuff. We don't hide anything. We're 100% transparent with that. But what I would recommend is that any agencies you choose, watch this video, write down some of the details, all right? We have ebooks and white papers that literally tell you what questions to ask any agency, all right? And from there, what I want to be able to do is just make sure that you have enough information to make the right decision when choosing whatever team you're choosing to follow. So that's our episode for today. Please subscribe, click on the notification. We're going to try to get as much content to you, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we'll see you next time.